Finally, we have bendy wrenches from Milwaukee Tool. We'll take a look at the details in just a moment. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. Several months ago, we talked about Milwaukee Tool releasing a whole new line of flex head ratcheting wrenches. Well, not a whole new line. They've never had flex head ratcheting wrenches. So they are going to release flex head ratcheting wrenches. And they have. We've got 2 sets of them. They come in 15-piece sets in both SAE and metric, and model number on those we'll have in the description as well as on the screen here. You can get them in the 15-piece sets. You can also get them in 7-piece sets. Now, the 15-piece SAE set, which is in red, will be the 48-22-9413, and the metric set, which is in black, will be 48-22-9513, and again, that's the 15-piece sets. We'll also have the 7-piece sets, as I mentioned, in the description if you're interested in those. You can also buy them individually if you need 1 wrench or 2 wrenches or however many wrenches you need. You can buy them as you please. Now, what we want to do is we want to take a little closer look at these. We're going to cover some of the details in more detail. Doesn't sound right. We're going to cover some of these features in a lot of detail and maybe even talk about some things down the road, if you will. So let's do that. Let's take a closer look. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about pricing on these kits as well as the other kits and talk about warranty and those sorts of things. See you in a moment. We've been hearing about these for quite a long time and we finally got them. It's the new Milwaukee Flex Head Ratcheting Combination Wrenches. We've got the metric as well as the SAE. These are the 15-piece sets. You can also get them in 7-piece sets as well. Let's go ahead and pull these straps out of here. Now you get everything from a 1/4 inch all the way up to a 1 inch in the SAE, and from 8 millimeter all the way up to 22 millimeters on the metric side. I do wish the metric went on up to 24 millimeters because we'll actually need that here in a moment, but understandably that would be more than a 15-piece set. The great thing about these 15-piece sets is there are no skip sizes in these. Now when it goes to the metric on the 7-piece sets, they do make smaller 7-piece sets. There are some skip sizes, at least on the metric and I believe on the SAE as well. Regardless, no skip sizes on these 15-piece sets. So everything, again, all the way 8, 9, 10, 11. So you get your 11, you get your 8 millimeter as well, all the way up 14 millimeter to 22. These are I-beam wrenches. In other words, they kind of have that I-beam shape to them. So you get kind of a concave impression through here, through the main body of the wrench. And then you get a laser etched logo on this side and a raised logo on this side. So a really good looking wrench. You get their max bite grip on the open end of these. We'll actually be testing that here in a moment. If you don't know about the max bite, we'll explain that when we get over to the test bench and show how well it works. It's supposed to add up to 25% more force without stripping a fastener, even with that open end. On the other end, obviously, is our ratcheting end. So we get a closed end, 144 position ratcheting mechanism. So that gives us a 2.5 degree swing arc. So we just have to move that far. So 2.5 degrees to actually engage that ratcheting mechanism once again. And then obviously we have the flexing head on it. It goes a little more than 90 degrees. It looks like at least 90 degrees. So 180 degrees complete rotation of the actual flex head. And we can use it from either side depending on which way we want to go. So there's no right and left on and off mechanism to switch. You just flip the wrench over to what you need. Nice bright chrome finish. I like chrome not because of necessarily the look of it, but because they wipe down rather easily. So when you get grease and grime all over them, you can take a rag, wipe them down, and they clean really, really easy. I also like the fact that you have an ink-filled number here. So here on the SAE, the 1 inch, we have a red number, also easily identified. And then on the metric, we have black. So you can quickly see If it's red, it's SAE. If it's black, it's going to be metric. So you see on the 15/16 here, again, the red ink-filled embossed numbers there. So very easy to read. Also, since it is embossed, if you will, then you shouldn't be able to scratch that out, or at least it should be able to last for years, and probably fill it with red paint if you ever do scratch that out. Now we're going to get into some of the mechanicals of these, as well as showing them performance-wise of how much force we can put to them, and making sure that they're going to actually last for us when we actually use them in the field. So let's go over to the test bench. We'll try these things out, and then of course after that we'll talk about pricing, warranty, and that sort of thing. As we discussed in the feature section of the review here, it has the max bite on the open end. Now this is basically a grip on the open end of the Milwaukee wrenches that aid in gripping these nuts or fasteners. Now, how that does that on the bolts or the nuts is that it has these grips here that actually bite into the flats of the fastener itself. Now, typically when you have a regular wrench, it's grabbing onto the corners of those fasteners or of those bolts and nuts, and once it rounds off the corners, it really doesn't have a great bite. So on the max bite side, you have reliefs here in the corners of the actual fastener on the wrench itself. And so that enables it to actually grab on the flats of those fasteners where there's definitely more bite, hence the max bite system. Now you'll see here when I actually put this on this nut, and by the way, this wrench should really be a 24 millimeter, but with it being a little oversized, we can kind of see better of how this actually bites onto the flats of the fastener and not only on the corners or on the sharp edges of the fastener. So, and there we go. And so you see now we've got a little slop there, and actually once I pull onto it, we're not grabbing the corners of those fasteners or the corners of those nuts. We're actually biting in to the actual flats of the fastener. And see, even on the max bite side where it has those different little grooves, if you will, and also here where we have the reliefs cut in the corners, it's allowing it to grab onto the flats of those fasteners and not just on the corners rounding it off. So in this case where I've got a 15/16 and I should really have a 24 millimeter, it's not going to strip that fastener near as fast because of that max bite condition. So that's what that max bite will do for you. Now, here's the only drawback with this. If you have decorative fasteners, like say a chrome acorn nut on a Harley Davidson or something like that, or a stainless steel nut or bolt on a hot rod or a collector car, you really don't want to use this open end max bite because it will leave grooves in the fastener. So great when you're really needing to bite into those fasteners. Not good if you have a decorative fastener. You want to stay away from that. That's not anything bad on Milwaukee per se. That's just in any case where you've got a wrench that's giving that aid and bite, it's going to definitely leave spaces on that fastener that you can see. So we're going to test out both the open end of the max bite as well as the closed end ratcheting wrench as well. And we're going to come through and tighten these first two to 100 foot-pounds. So we'll test the max bite, and then we'll go to the ratcheting mechanism. And we're going to go from 100, 100, then to 150 and 200 foot-pounds. Okay, so we have this first fastener torqued to 100 foot-pounds. We're going to use the open end, the max bite end of the Milwaukee wrench, and try to break that free without stripping it. No problem whatsoever with doing that. In fact, let's go to 150. Okay, now we're at 150 foot-pounds. No problem whatsoever, so no issue of stripping that. The max bite really dug in, and you can actually see that on the fastener itself where it's actually bitten into the sides of the fastener. Now we're going to move on, so 100 foot-pounds on the ratcheting end. So flip our wrench over, and 100 foot-pounds. No problem at all. So we'll move on to 150 foot-pounds. Little helper wrench. No problem there either. So the ratcheting mechanism, having no problem breaking 150 foot-pounds free. And let's move on to 200 foot-pounds. Again, going to use my my 1-inch Milwaukee combo wrench as a helper wrench. So 200 foot-pounds. Not a problem. So going up to 200 foot-pounds and breaking things free with our 15/16, and that's probably something pretty common that you would tackle. Any more than that, I don't know that you're grabbing your ratcheting wrench for, but the fact that it will hold up to that should be more than enough for your flex head ratcheting wrenches. Something else I wanted to point out on the flex head end of these ratchets, you'll notice something. Obviously we have the flexible end, and then we have an Allen head screw that actually goes through here, which should be a shoulder screw, or it's got a shoulder that goes all the way through, and then it threads in on this side. In this case, it is, I believe, a 4mm, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe SAE, but anyway. So I'm going to take this out, and we're going to have a look here. Because over time, as you use these, say your 13mm, your 10mm, your common sizes, as well as your 7/16, 9/16, 5/8, things like that, as you use them a lot, this will probably get kind of a little flimsy, if you will, or not flimsy, but we'll get where it's kind of too loose, and you need to tighten this up. I just wanted to have a look in here. Okay, so that's interesting. So not only do we have a threaded shoulder bolt, just like I thought, that goes all the way through and tightens on one end, but also we have a spring washer here. Let me show you this. So this is a curved washer. So it's not a straight washer, and that's putting tension on the sides of this. And you see there's an actual groove that it rides in. So it's probably only one side. So this side does not have the washer, just this side does. And that's going to keep tension on that to keep it from being all flimsy and floppy, if you will. Also, you notice it had some blue Loctite on it, so over time, as you do maintenance on these, you may want to put a little more blue Loctite on there, and so that you make sure this thing's not getting too flimsy and kind of falling all over the place. If you're picking them up and it's falling down like that, then you definitely want to put some mojo on this, and maybe even put a little more Loctite on it. Maybe even replace that spring washer. And if you wondered, yes, both sets will fit in the 46-inch Mechanics Toolbox tool chest from Milwaukee with the combination wrenches as well. Takes a little shifting to get these to fit in this 46-inch wide box, but it will fit and fits rather nicely. And that's the cool thing about them doing the offsets on their actual wrench sets, that angle design, so that you can put these side by side without taking up a ton of room. That's awesome. Flex head ratcheting wrenches from Milwaukee Tool. They do exactly what they need to do. They break stuff free, they tighten stuff up, and they flex when they need to flex, and they hold their shape, if you will, as well. Even the Max Bite grip, we were pretty impressed to break 150 foot-pounds free with no problem at all. I know that's not tipping the scale by any means, but let's face it, if you're putting an open end on something, you shouldn't be going much past that, no matter how big the size of the wrench is. Probably ought to be putting a socket on it or something like that. So anyway, the Max Bite did a good job. But watch out for those specialty fasteners like decorative fasteners, because it will bite into those. And that goes for any of these wrenches that have that special bite feature on it, if you will. So the Max Bite did great. The 144 position ratcheting end did great as well. We took that up to 200 foot-pounds. And again, the ratcheting wrench, yes, we want to be able to bear down on them, but at the same time, we're probably not going to be putting as much force as we would, say, on a ratchet and socket. So taking it up to 200 foot-pounds and breaking those free, had no problem doing that whatsoever. Now let's talk about pricing on these. The 15-piece sets in both metric and SAE are going to run you $289. Also going to be a lifetime warranty on these. Now the 7-piece sets in both SAE and metric are going to be a little cheaper at $169. However, if you look at the price per wrench, you're coming out a lot better on a 15-piece set. And as I mentioned earlier, also on the 7-piece sets, you will have some skip sizes, such as the 7mm, or such as the 9mm and the 11mm, whereas in the 15-piece sets, you don't have any skippies. We don't like skippies, but we understand what you're doing. You're trying to keep price down, and you're going to use the 7/16 and the whatever other one that you need to for that skip size. But I digress. I would rather have no skippies, and that's what we get in the 15-piece sets. As I mentioned, lifetime warranty on these. I do like the I-beam feel of these. Also, I mentioned this when we originally reviewed the combination wrenches, the regular combination wrenches that weren't flex head nor ratcheting, and that is, by the look of these, they look kind of thin. In other words, you take a look and you think, man, that's a thin wrench. It's really going to bite into your hands. It's not going to feel well. But they don't perform that way. And what I mean by that is when you really grab a hold of these and put some mumbo jumbo on it, it's not biting into your hand, because I feel like looking at it, it looks like almost like a blade, and it's really going to be troublesome or not feel good to the hand. I have not seen that happen. And as I mentioned, I said that long ago on the regular combo wrenches. So I do like the I-beam construction here, a little bit of an elliptical design here rather than just pure parallels, and you can kind of feel it through the body. So that's cool. I do like the raised embossed logo here on this side, and then you get the laser etched on the other side, but I'm more concerned about the performance of it. And the ink field numbers, I love that. I love that the ink field is kind of, hidden out of the way, so you're not going to scratch that off, at least for years to come. So I like a lot of the features on these wrenches. Glad to see Milwaukee breaking into doing more of these specialized tools that aren't so specialized, because let's face it, as a mechanic, as someone that works on a lot of vehicles, you want a flex head ratcheting wrench. It's not so much of a specialized tool anymore. So I'm glad to see Milwaukee kind of fill in that hole, if you will, that was definitely there. They also line up very well in a toolbox, as I mentioned on that as well, in our 46-inch Milwaukee toolbox. Fit really nicely in there with our other regular combination wrenches in there. So this angle design lets you offset and put these side by side, and a little shifting you can fit for these side by side in one of the wide drawers. Check them out for yourselves. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button, but only if you liked our video. If you hated our video, by all means, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day. Keep smiling.